Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Welcome to a monster analysis on the newest and latest fire mythic monster, Quaxalcroc. And I know I already did an exclusive first look, however these two types of videos are totally different. In the exclusive first look, I literally get the monster to my account and I do an exclusive showcase just reacting to my monster, my first impressions of the monster. With the monster analysis series, I actually take a time to compare the stats to other monsters and I give my thoughts and insights on how I think this monster will work compared to other monsters. So hopefully you'll watch this video as well, but if you just watch the exclusive first look, that's totally fine as well. And if you haven't seen the exclusive first look, I highly recommend you see it after you see this analysis. There's going to be a link in the description if you want to check it out. With that being said, let's get into this analysis, and we always start things off with the Monster Legends lore, which is one of the richest things to the monsters. Alright, so Emperor Montezuma has been coordinated for years. Thanks to Itsunami, his loyal servant, he's been able to stay in power. But his time has come. A humble peasant named Quaxalcroc had heard that Montezuma kept a very special charm inside his treasure chambers, a big, polished mythic amber gemstone. He managed to sneak in, steal it, and release its power with the help of the rebellious shamans, who also tried using their powers to cater to the Emperor's personal interests. With the power of mythic amber, Quaxalcroc is ready to dethrone Montezuma, but will he be a fair leader or will he let the power go to his head? Alright, so here we have this devastatingly great looking monster, one of the best designs I've ever seen in Monster Legends. I mean, just look at the monster, so much detail, looks so incredible, looks so fierce, and since I've already used him, let me just tell you, he definitely lives up to his design. Also, I should add that one of my favorite things I've been seeing in the comment section when it comes to this monster is they are calling him Lord Firestar, which I love it and I definitely see the resemblance. When I get this monster, I am definitely going to name him Lord Firestar. Alright, Quaxalcroc is a fire attacker with heavy torture skills like Burn, Sunburn, Ignition, or Nightmares. He has an evolving trait. At rank 0 he's immune to Freeze, at rank 3 he gains immunity to Possession, and what the heck, at rank 1 he gains immunity to Possession, and at rank 3 he becomes immune to Control. So this is the first mythic monster to have complete immunity to Control. So it's even good because even if you don't get this monster at rank 3, already unranked you have the freeze immunity, so you have protection against Abysmus. Already at rank 1 you have possession immunity, so protection against Van Decken. And obviously any future mythic monsters that get released that have the freezing or the possession, if you have this monster at rank 1 you're protected. But then if you can take this monster to rank 3, you'll gain that stun immunity as well. So I mean, just trait alone, he has to be one of the most menacing mythic monsters. The fact that you can't rely on denying him, you can't control him, you're going to take him out with brute force or with torture skills, that's really going to be the only way. It's like when you face a Hukuai and you know you literally can't do anything to him. And honestly, you can't even cooldown activate this monster as well, because all mythic monsters have a powerful 0 cooldown skills. So with that being said, let's analyze his stats and compare him to other mythic monsters. So starting off with his life stat, he has 60,320. This is a pretty good life stat. It's the 4th highest stat in the game. That being said, it's also a pretty common life stat. He's not the only monster with this life stat. Cat UFO, Guy Daigo, Unspeakable, Cawthor, they all have the same base life stat of 60,320. But again, it is the 4th highest stat currently in the game. The power stat is 5544. This is actually tied with Zavipit. So it's funny because both of them are torture dealers. However, this is definitely a way better torture dealer. And even though his power is right around the middle, I would say he definitely makes up for the lack in the power stat alone with all the torture he can potentially deal. And then as for speed stat, this is more on the lower end. Once again, tied with Zavipit. 4664, honestly, it doesn't really matter. He's not there to go first and attack. He is just a pure torture dealer / attacker, so he doesn't need a high speed stat. Alright, with that being said, let's talk about his relics. He can hold the sword and he can hold the armor. Now, previously mentioned that he can do Nightmares. This actually works with the sword relic Nishan Sword. So Nishan Sword is a relic that activates only when the enemy has Nightmares. So Nishan Sword actually drains stamina as well as deals dark damage. But the more important thing is the fact that you drain stamina. So if you face legendary monsters, the amount of stamina you drained, if your sword is leveled up, that is enough to make them have to skip their turn or have to recharge. Against mythic monsters, if they're ranked up, a ranked up Nishan Sword is not going to be able to drain enough stamina unless they've already used an attack or two. But nonetheless, it's nice to know that you can equip the sword, in which this monster can essentially also AoE stamina drain from the relic itself. Now obviously nowadays there are so many relics that can just recover stamina, and it's not a foolproof way of denying, but it's nice to know this monster could use the Nishin sword to his advantage. And on top of that, this monster can hold the armor relic, which just makes him even harder to kill. He already has a high life stat, and then with the armor relic it makes it even harder. In terms of books, this monster is an underworld monster, a dragon monster, and an adventure monster. And I mentioned this when I did the exclusive first look. Right now, we have Armor Claw, we have this monster, we have Morgs. I feel like there's another dragon monster, mythic monster, so they have to be careful for the vicious, powerful, legendary monster Wormlad, who has Dragon Hater, especially if you face a Wormlad that's an attacker Wormlad. He could potentially take you down. He has had to kill a dragon, and that even grants an extra turn, so be careful for that monster. So moving on to skills, tier 1 we have Aztec Fire. Deals moderate fire damage to an enemy, applies burn to one enemy, and look at the cost, no stamina required. So even if you were in a situation where you got all of your stamina drained, you have a skill you can utilize, and it deals burning. Moving on, we have Dragon's Cry, deals moderate special damage to all enemies, applies nightmares to all enemies. This is the skill I was talking about that can be used with Nishin Sword, and it's special base damage, but more importantly, assuming there's no Megaton monster, no Dodge Area monsters, if you hit them, if you hit the enemies, apply nightmares, your relic will activate and you'll drain their stamina. That's nice. And moving on, we have Sun Hammer, deals very heavy special damage to an enemy, applies fire weakness, burn ignition to an enemy, requires cooldown. So this skill does a lot, and it costs a weird 47 stamina, so 2 turn cooldown. So heavy special damage first, and then you apply fire weakness, and then you apply burn, and then you apply ignition. So the cool thing about this is the fact that both burn and ignition are fire torture effects, so they actually benefit from the fire weakness. So they'll take a little extra damage thanks to that. So this skill may or may not have the potential to OTK, but with the addition of burning and ignition, even if the enemy doesn't die from the initial attack, they'll definitely die from the burning or ignition if it's not cleansed or if they don't have a relic to help them out. So very powerful attack. Next up, we have a skill that applies nightmares to one enemy and gives one extra turn to itself. So it's just the cool thing. What I like about this skill right here, it's an extra turn skill. One, it helps resetting the cooldown, right? If on turn 1 you did Aztec Fire, on turn 2 you can do your extra turn Nightmare skill and be able to Aztec Fire again if you needed to for whatever reason. Maybe you're low on stamina. But for example, what I like about this skill, combined with Sun Hammer, maybe you calculate that the burn ignition is not enough to take down the enemy monster, but maybe that Nightmares gives you that extra little edge you needed, or maybe you have your Nishin Sword, so then you do this skill to give Nightmares to an enemy monster, then you do Sun Hammer, then your Nishin Sword activates, and then that monster you single targeted, you'll drain his stamina, you'll deal some dark damage, maybe that's enough to take him down. So it definitely has its uses. If you're in a situation where you have this monster unranked, and you do fight a Van Decken who's going to go first and could potentially land possession against you, then hey, go ahead and run the skill, because you never know, even if you do get possessed, you'll be able to maybe potentially use this skill, and then attack your own team with the Nightmares, which isn't that bad, and then you'll be free to do another attack, and this time attack the enemy. So it certainly has its uses. Moving on to tier 3, we have Blaze Rain. Deals moderate fire damage to enemies, applies burn and sunburn to enemies, requires cooldown. In my personal opinion, this is my favorite skill. Right now I'm playing on a new account, and it's essentially Marquis's attack, sunburn and burn. It's mighty powerful, but now we have it on a powerful mythic monster who's immune to control skills. I mean, burn and sunburn are just fantastic AoEs that drain a lot of damage. So as long as you're not facing someone who's immune to torture skills, this is going to be a really great way at chomping away at the enemy's life. And then we have Ember Storm, deals moderate fire damage to enemies, applies Ignite. Look at that, another torture skill. So this monster can apply burn and sunburn, and then Ignite with another AoE skill. That is 3 powerful torture skills, and you also have an AoE Nightmares on top of that. So this monster definitely relies more on the torture dealing aspect. And then we have Ultimate. The ultimate attack, Heat Inferno, deals heavy fire damage to enemies, applies burn, sunburn, ignite, everything in one. So this monster is definitely more indicative of a torture dealer. He's there just to apply torture. My favorite thing about this monster is the fact that he cannot be denied. So once you land that burn and the sunburn and the ignition, the enemy is definitely going to be feeling the heat. No pun intended, actually pun intended. And then I think for the most part you always want to start with Blaze Rain, because as soon as the enemies have sunburn on them, hey, that minus 15% accuracy, that might make it so the enemy actually misses your attack on you. So there's 2 ways to run this monster, or to run this monster I should say, and that's you run him as a team speed holder, right? If you want to put a strength you can. But if you want to do 2 team speed and a strength, you know, you can totally do that. You can do 3 team speed. You can do a speed and 2 strength. You can run him as an attacker. The biggest advantage to this monster is that he can pack a punch, and then he can apply a bunch of torture. So, in a situation where maybe you have a turn transfer monster, if this monster goes, right, and applies the sunburn and burn, and you turn transfer into him, and then he applies ignite to the enemy monster, that's what, like 15%, 15%, 10, 20%? It's a lot of torture in one turn for the enemy monsters that are hit with negative effects, and you can even do an extra little nightmares on one enemy monster if you want to. So, in terms of his damage dealing potential, it's definitely more of the torture that you're after. So be careful if you fight an Abysmus who's obviously immune to torture, right? The Abysmus you have to take out with brute force, and that monster would have the water elemental advantage over you. But against any other mythic monster right now, and I think one of the biggest advantages to this monster right now at the time recording the video is that the tank mythic monsters, they're kind of dominating. The Armor Claws, the Erders, there's another one, the Unspeakables, they all have the taunt trait. They are quite menacing right now, especially combined with the legendary dodge area monsters, and they can be quite tough to take down. So the fact that we've been introduced a monster that is immune to torture, that is immune to control, so he can't be denied, and can apply all this torture against your Megataunt monster, so who cares how high their HP stat is? Who cares how many life runes that monster has on them, right? Doesn't matter if Armor Claw does monster review, increases max life, and has like a life or 1 or 2 life runes. You apply the sunburn, you apply the ignite, he's gonna be feeling it. So that's this monster's big advantage. That and the trait, phenomenal monster. I really enjoyed using him in the exclusive first look. Definitely check out the video. That'll give you a better idea of what to expect. But just from an analytical perspective, definitely one of my more favorite mythic monsters that's been released. But with that being said, that's my analysis on this monster. Now I want to hear from all of you guys. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this monster? How do you think it compares to the other monsters in the game? And remember to subscribe.